Welcome to the Coop Tank. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, coming to you from SuiteRecording in beautiful Mount Laurel, New Jersey. You know, people, if you have a podcast, a video cast, an audiobook, hell, even if you need a studio built, SuiteRecording is the place for you. Joe Gangemi not only knows his stuff, but he's a hard worker, he's honest, and he'll hook you up. So check out their website, SuiteRecording, SUITE, recording.com, or email them at hello@suiterecording.com. Anyway, we have a good show today. My head's a little fuzzy. I was at a networking event last night and had a few too many beers, but we're gonna slog through this. And we have three people I love what they do. They're good networkers. They're good people. Our first guest from FrontEnd Graphics is Betty Maul. How you doing, Betty?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Steve, for having me today.
You're welcome. And then from Spartan Digital Solutions, we have Dave Kryszczak. What's up, Dave?
Steve, you're the man. Thank you.
And finally, from Bankers Cooperative Group, we have a great basketball player, Doug Holcombe. What's up, Doug?
Not as good as Betty's husband who played D1, but I'll take it. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, so Betty, tell us about FrontEnd Graphics, what you do, what makes you different. Give us a little rundown of your company.
Okay. FrontEnd Graphics is a printing company. We're woman-owned and family-run, and we're located in Cherry Hill. And what we do that's different from most printers is we help you make the most of your greatest asset, which is your data. So the more you know about your customers, the easier it is for me to help you make a more productive campaign, regardless of what the widget is that you're trying to promote. So digital presses are great. You can print one, you can print 10,000, whatever you need. You can see it, touch it, feel it, and it's a great medium. You can still pocket it, has longevity. It's still the most effective way to market your company. So FrontEnd Graphics is different. We work with a client way upstream from print ever going on paper or in the mail to help you get the most out of that mailing, whatever it is you're doing, or your online presentation.
All right. How about you, Dave, Mr. Dave K? Tell us about Spartan Digital Solutions.
I will agree with Betty that print is amazing, but as the digital marketing guy on this call here, I have to fight for my digital. Spartan Digital, we're a full service digital marketing agency. We specialize in website development, search engine optimization, search engine marketing, and social media. We service a lot of service-based companies. Think of companies like ServPro, Allstate, plumbers, HVAC, contractors, you name it. My job is to make the phones ring and to make them money. And that's what we do. We're driving it through ads and good content and good storytelling.
All right. And how about you, Doug? I know you're newer to your new job. Tell us about Bankers Cooperative Group.
Sure. So I've been in the industry 10 years, but BCG is an employee benefits brokerage. We've been around since 1982. We're a cooperative, making us unique that we're governed by a board of directors. We help manage an organization's EB program. So in particular, technology, product, compliance, communication behind it. We're a partner consultant first, but there's no magic bullets in the industry. As we all know, nobody really likes their health insurance or feel that it's good value. So what I perceive as my greatest asset isn't necessarily finding in the magic bullet, but it's giving you a genuine advocate who wants to help you intentionally expand your network and drive value to your business. And one of those values is, I'm going to give you my cell phone. Call me whenever, because there's always issues with health insurance.
All right. Well, thank you about that. So my first question is, what inspires you? We're going to start with you, Betty. What inspires you when you wake up, or you look for something? What is it that inspires you? Like me, I'll listen to music. Music inspires me, or the arts inspired me. But what inspires you?
I guess in our business, technology and what the greatest challenge will be today is something new every day. I get bored really easily, so I'm in the right business. I could never be bored. Every day there's a new challenge that comes down the pike. Or for me, what turns me on is when someone has an idea and they want us to help them get that idea down in print or online, and we get to do creative with them. That's what makes me go. That's what I love. That's where my energy goes. So I get inspired by creating something new every day for my clients.
Okay, how about you, Dave?
I agree kind of with Betty a little bit. In the creative world, we all take inspiration from our clients, and we're working, we're talking to lawyers one day, we're talking to accountants the other. We kind of get to play different hats and different sides of the street. We do a little bit of government work too. So seeing the full circle of how something can be executed upon, and then how that benefits us as taxpayers or us as citizens, from a marketing perspective of something that's legible and understanding. But just the general purpose, Steve, I'm a music guy too. Good tunes in the morning, hop in the gym at 5:36 in the morning, and you're with all like-minded people who want to succeed, and that's very inspiring.
All right. How about you, Doug?
So similar to what Betty and Dave said, I mean, anybody who owns a business can be a prospect of mine. Industries are heterogeneous. So I'm always learning about industries, from nonprofits to law firms to accounting firms. So you really hear about some of the issues, and then you draw commonalities between the industries, and you create solutions that you can replicate regardless of the size of the employer and regardless of the industry that they're in. I have a lot of fun in just finding solutions for employers. The other part is connecting. I mean, as you know, side hustle is networking and genuinely connecting with other people, getting to know them, not just on a corporate or formal level, but an informal, personal level. We're all humans at the end of the day. And I think it's really cool when you kind of break through, lay your hair down, and genuinely connect with somebody.
So, okay, so I'm a guy who I've had a lot of jobs in my life. All right. I've done a lot of stuff. I've been a corporate restaurant manager. I mean, corporate marketing restaurant manager. I've been a hand model for TV. I've been a stand-up comic. I've written a book. That's me. I just fall into stuff. But why do you do what you do? Dave, why do you do what your job is? Why do you do that? I mean, because me, I fall into stuff. I don't plan. I just fall into shit. I never worry about where I'm going to be. I know my bills will be paid. If I had to, I would substitute teacher or drive. I just enjoy life. I'm like a Kerouac type, even though that book's overrated. But Dave, why do you do what you do?
I was supposed to be an IT consultant when I grew up, an MIS person by trade, and I jumped into this industry by accident and fell in love with it. So that's why I do what I do. I really don't work still. I haven't found a job title yet.
Okay. Well, how about you, Doug?
Steve, I have a bone to pick first, and it's not about the hand modeling. It's the Kerouac reference. So I'm a big fan of On the Road.
It's good, but it's not legendary. Give me Bukowski over Kerouac. That's all I'm saying. If you talk realism, but that's okay. I'll tell me what. So maybe you should be a writer. We should write a book about why we don't disagree on Kerouac.
Well, let me put it this way. So if I was following my passion, maybe I would be a writer. But I kind of fell into employee benefits by failing out of PT school. So I put all my eggs in one basket, thinking I was going to go into one career, which was physical therapy, and ended up doing a complete 180 and met somebody who inspired me to go to HR conference. And again, a lot of times it's just taking that leap of faith. I went, printed cards at, would have used Betty if I knew her at the time, at Staples, and it had my name, my GPA, and my personal email. I went there, people wrapped their arms around me, and that's how I landed a job in employee benefits. So it's just made sense, but really it was taking that leap of faith and making something good out of a bad situation.
How about you, Betty? Because I know you've been with your business since woman-owned, as you said, which in a male-dominated field.
Absolutely.
How did you get into it? I mean, it's sitting there going, okay, I'm going to start. I'm a woman. I'm going to start this. I mean, that takes a lot of, as my mom would say, chutzpah.
Yeah, I had a great and supporting husband. Still have him. He's my right hand, and I couldn't have done any of this without him. But long story short, I got fired from my job. I worked for a large technical printer, and my clients were Lockheed and RCA and GE, and I had aerospace clients. I ran proposals, and for some reason, after I had my third baby, because I had 3 kids in 4 years, I'm Irish, it's what we do. They seemed to think my monetary value diminished with that third child and some flexibility, and I was having none of that. I just said, I'm worth something, and I decided to ask my clients if I could be a private consultant for them, doing what I had done at the printer. Thankfully, I had clients like Boeing and Lockheed that all said, yes, absolutely. And went out, started my business, had the FBI come to my house in their black suits, and they got peanut butter and jelly all over their elbows. Hired a woman to watch my kids and 2 other women that were single moms' kids. And the rest is history. I never looked back, and I've never missed a game that my kids played. So
That's pretty awesome. I didn't know that story about you. That's always good. You know, you always hear these business stories, and it's great. And it's okay. So we'll start. We'll stay with you, Betty. What are some daily challenges you face running a business and what you do? What are some challenges that you constantly have? I know I said you know you like to think on the run, that inspires you, but what are some challenges that people may not know about that a business owner faces?
Well, there's always challenges. I mean, to me, the paperwork that you get bogged down with as an owner, with not just healthcare benefits, but 401ks and making sure you're taking care of your family. My company, my people are my family. I mean, I look out for them, but that's way apart from sales and marketing. That's just the people factor in your company. And you want to make sure that you allow them to balance their lifestyle. I don't like people working here super late and not having a life. I mean, flex time, people have things they need to do. If you have cats and your cat dies, you got to be there to understand that's a family member for that person. So I find the heart part of the business and the people that make front end successful, that drives me every day. And you know what? Their challenges are my challenges. So just trying to be the mom and trying to be understanding and trying to allow them to be very fulfilled in what they do, yet have their private life. That's a challenge every day. You got to deal with that.
How about you, Doug?
So I think this is probably a challenge most of us can agree on. Although there's many perks working from home, not being in an office with a server and redundancies, but a lot of times for me, it's technology. Like I keep looking at my Wi-Fi signal to make sure it's not going to drop like it did yesterday. So if it does and I disappear, I'll be back on. So that's number one. Number two is it's healthcare. Not so much health insurance, but the industry is just changing and not always for the best. There's a lot of mergers and acquisitions, a lot of people just getting caught in a system that's like an immovable rock, and they have escalating costs, and the quality of care isn't where it should be, at least not in this country. So honestly, it's those are the two biggest issues. But if there's one that I would love to address, it would be the healthcare system as a whole, just to make it work better for us, make my life a lot easier, quite frankly.
Hey, how about you, Mr. Dave? I know you're newer in this business, running your own business.
Yeah, and a really good parallel between what both of you guys just said. I was a single O for the first 2 years or so, but now we have, in the past 18 months, we've gone up to 7 full-time people. So it's gone from oh shit to a lot worse than in a lot of months. So it's working on the business and not in the business anymore. Basically people management, and most of that includes managing their time. I basically play what I went to school for, which is MIS and project management, and making sure that they're happy so that they can continue to deliver the results that we need. Like Betty, we do some government work, and when they want stuff done, they might not pay on time, but they want it done yesterday. So it's got to get done as close as possible to the timeline. And it's definitely a different change as a single O, time management, but then as a new manager of multiple people's, managing 7 or 8 people's schedules so that your schedule can be as efficient as possible. So I can come do cool things like this.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we all know each other from networking. You know, and I have networking groups. Doug, you had a networking group. Dave, you've had events. I've met Betty at different events, and I put an event on. I started with one called Cocktails with Cooper, and Betty was there, and it's chill, and it's what I like about it. What makes a networking event good to you, and then follow up with what makes it bad to you? Because we all go to so many events. Some are great. You know, Dave would have these events. It's great. He would have when his parents have a catering company. I remember the first time we went, holy crap, he had seafood Newburgh. I went in, this is the best food I've ever been at an event, because they had leftover, but it was great. But what makes an event good to you, and what makes it bad to you? And we'll start with you, Dave, because you've hosted live events. So you know how to really, you have a good answer on this.
I could give a dissertation on this topic. As a person who also owns a catering company with my parents, we've seen both sides of the street. A good event, really on the preface of that, is knowing you have to have a mission of going to that event. And if you don't, that's okay. But the idea of, hey, I'm going to meet Vito's, very important top officers, or I'm going to make this connection or this connection. I treat it kind of like a game because I'm a Scorpio, so I like gamifying things. Good food always helps, and just a good atmosphere. Not too many people where, you walk into a room, we've all gone into rooms of 300 people and you're like, I really got to take this in for a second. But 30 people kind of stinks because we know probably 3/4 of them. So then you're hounding 25% of the people. In terms of a negative thing, there's really not too many negatives from the professional organizations that do this for a living that we're in. But more of that, I've walked into some rooms and felt a little standoffish where people are in kind of a click format. And I know a couple of you, I can talk to the wall and I'm good at getting information out of just about anybody. But having bad apples in those groups really turn off the whole, if not the organization, just that particular event. And if you're not jumping and jiving it, normally you fall off the rails pretty fast when it comes to networking. But if it's a great crowd and it's, a little bit of the people to get you started, that web forms really quickly and you're working the whole room.
How about you, Betty?
It's funny, I don't go to networking groups to go after something. What I do is try to meet as many people as I can. And for women, it's different than for men. And I just thank God I'm a sports addict and know a lot about all kinds of sports, because this always broke the field for me with all the men in print. But I like a smaller group because I don't like shouting to try to talk to someone. I lose my voice very quickly. I hate when someone meets you and they look past you to see who else is in the room. So smaller is better. And it gives you an opportunity in a small, like yours, Steve. It's great because there's enough people and you actually get to spend time with people you never see that you may know, but you can't catch up with. And finding out what everybody else does to see who can I connect down the road is like, that's my bailiwick. Let's find out what they do. Who do I know that's a good meet for them? And paying it forward and passing it on. And I get more sales from doing that than I do from any hard sell that would ever happen. So I like to network. I like to meet people. I like to find out, like with you, Steve, when we talked and I found out about your entertainment career and we had that in common, I was like, this is really cool. Like, I didn't know that about you. There's more to Steve Cooper than just the guy you meet at the networking event, and finding out who that person is it's really great fun for me. And that's what I enjoy about networking.
How about you, Doug? Because you ran the Holcombe Hangout.
I did, Steve. I think participation and attendance paled in comparison to yours, but nonetheless, I did. That was remote. I'm over in a lot of ways the remote environment. I love the in-person, albeit it's a lot harder for me to get to those. As you'll see, I have beautiful artwork behind me. Anytime I go to an event, I find myself having to give up a pound of flesh. So for me nowadays, it has to be intentional. I have to walk away with something that, from a business standpoint, it will help me move things forward. But also, if there's a personal connection I can make, and from a socialization standpoint, that's always a net positive, then that's killing two birds with one stone. But the way I think you get to those intentional connections is through liaisons or people that are willing to see someone in the room who's on their phone, and there's always somebody, and sometimes it's me. If I walk in a room, I don't know anyone, maybe I'm not as gregarious or outgoing as Dave. I'm going to be on my phone. To me, that's a bad sign. You want somebody to walk over, put their arm around their shoulder and say, hey, who do you want to meet? Why are you here? I think having those people in the room is so critical to ensuring that everyone there takes something away from the event. Give an example. Last night, you had your event. I sent my colleague, Chris. Chris didn't know anyone. You already said, hey, connect me with Chris. Want to do a follow-up. Now he's on your radar. Now he's almost under your wing. So I think it's huge to have liaisons and people that are going to help kind of moderate the event. And also, side note, cheap alcohol always helps. Putting it within a nice price point always makes things a little more enticing.
Cheap, high quality alcohol.
Exactly. Well, that's like for me, for my event. And one of the reasons why I did it was because, sometimes you pay for an event and you go there and it sucks, and they sit there, well, I forked out $35. I'm not going to leave. And then you go, well, it's not productive. For mine, if people walk in and they go, it sucks, they can leave. I don't care. I had a bunch of drunk people. We're leaving it rolling out at 7 o'clock. So anyway, so we're going to talk about social media. Now, it's funny because we have a different age gap here. Different. Betty, you're a little older. Dave, you're young. Doug, you're in the middle. And social media is different. For like me and Betty, when it wasn't around for us, I mean, and it came out. And Doug, you got it later. And Dave, it's been a part of your life, probably pretty much your whole life. What are some things that irk you on like LinkedIn? And I'm going to start. I hate when people automatically say award winning. Now I can understand if you've won, like if you're printer of the year by something, I understand that, Betty, you should put that. But some people, I mean, they could have won like a 5th grade spelling bee and they'll say award winning because they're just full of shit. I mean, people on LinkedIn are full of shit. You see people, all these events, they have all these pictures. Well, are you getting any business from it? So award winning was on my tangent right now. That's what pisses me off when I see award winning. What are some things that piss you off? And be open and don't worry about offending people. And we'll start with you, Dave, because you deal in social media a lot. So what is something like pisses you off?
Yeah, there's the public perception of, and this is social media as a whole, but then I'll pick on LinkedIn. There's people that fake it till they make it on social media, and that kind of award-winning thing is in there. Unless it's a statewide award or above, I don't really want to hear about it. And for LinkedIn, being an authentic self, because a lot of what LinkedIn is now is what Facebook was 5 or 6 years ago. LinkedIn poached a lot of old Facebook employees. So if you've seen that becoming more Facebook-esque, that is why. And just being more transparent. People hide a lot through the events and posting and all that stuff. And the people that are posting 65, 70 million times a day probably aren't doing too much business development phone calls or contract negotiations or any of that stuff. We post because I send it to our team that we do a couple hundred social media posts a day. So we're on autopilot. But just be wary of people that are crazy on LinkedIn that might not have the team managing it because they're probably got some smoke up their butt.
All right. How about you, Betty?
I hate seeing these people that want me to see them at the gym. I'm like so over it. I got to look at this person every morning. I got to hear what he had for breakfast. I got to know he's there at 5:30. I personally don't give a crap what you're doing at 5:30 in the morning. But when I see it every day, it's like, cut me a break. I just scroll right through them now. I don't even pay attention.
How about you,
That's
Doug?
my big beef. It annoys the heck out of me.
I agree.
I think it's the misappropriation of certain terms like coach, expert. And Steve, I know this is kind of playing off your comment, but I don't necessarily fault the person who's branding it. I think it's the audience. And I'm not going to bring up politics, I promise, but I think as a society, we are not as discerning as we should be. And I think if you just kind of cut through the artificial and you actually click on the page and you look at the content, you go on their website, you could probably pretty quickly figure out whether it's bullshit or not. So I don't so much put the fault on the people who are posting that they're an expert in a field and maybe they're really not. I think it's more so the audience and the potential consumers. But yeah, that definitely, I think there's overused terms. And Betty, I agree. I think, there's a time and place for posting your daily routine out in the world. And I get it. Some people want that positive feedback. But again, like the platform matters. And maybe keep that on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram. Let's keep things kind of business oriented on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's funny on Facebook. My Facebook is completely different than my LinkedIn. I don't put any of my jokes. I don't put any of my stuff because I don't put that. I want people to know that. But talking about, you said something about artificial. I want to talk about AI because I'm very anti-AI and everyone has their things. And I got so pissed off when I went on LinkedIn and it suggested that I could put my post using AI. To me, AI takes away creativity. It takes individualism. I can't even say it. That's how pissed off I am. And it's one of those things you can tell when someone posts from AI. It's the same shit. Like it's the same structure. And that's a big thing. And I have Hollywood friends who are Hollywood writers, and I'm very anti-AI because of them and the actors I know, because AI is screwing over the entertainment business. But AI, are you a fan? Doug, are you a fan of AI? And if so, why? If you're not a fan, if so, why? Because people love it. I just hate it.
AI scares the shit out of me. I'll give you two reasons. The first is, although it's becoming regulated, it's really unregulated. So I don't want it to replace human decency and the need for humans to be doing certain tasks. That's number one. Number two, my wife's a teacher. So her students are literally banging out PowerPoints and papers, and you can't check it because you need AI to combat AI. That's the issue. So it's going to be problematic for her. I do think there's a place for it, though. I'm just not quite sure where. I think there are mundane tasks that you can automate that'll make our lives a little bit more, not productive, but meaningful, in that we can focus on tasks that we actually care about. Like Betty said, the admin part, that sucks. Like rote memorization, those menial, stupid day-to-day tasks. If we could automate those through AI, that'd be great. But unfortunately, I don't think you can just get that and not get the other side, where AI and cybernet completely takes over our nation, and we become, slaves to it.
How about you, Betty?
I see AI having a place in certain things that we do in here production wise that make life go much faster for us. Just like Photoshop things we want to do to make something have a little more impact. I definitely see an application in our business. I also see a danger. I see copywriters losing their jobs if people start using AI. Like you, my heart goes to anybody in the entertainment business. They're going to get ripped off. This is not a good thing. So I think there's definitely a place for it. I think it can improve functions, like Doug said, that are repetitive within the office structure. But I think we have to be very, very careful where this goes, or there's going to be an awful lot of people that are out of work. So
How about you?
I see that being a danger in a lot of ways. And who's doing the back end on this? What's the slant? What's the bias? What goes in there? I don't approve of somebody like a John Wayne or some famous actor being in a movie again because they reprised him in AI. This is just not okay. So there's ethics there that I think that are really going to be difficult to control, but I think there has to be mechanisms to do that.
How about you, Dave? Because you're a young guy. You're in that area. What's your take on it?
We use AI for certain aspects of the business, but we do have copywriters on staff, and you need a human to even if you're using AI, humans need to interpret what that says and still add a humanistic form to it, because as you just noted, we can tell when things are being posted with AI 100%. I do think that there needs to be some regulation on it in terms of how biases are conducted, because there are things for all sides of the coin. But on the business side, I haven't taken notes on a Teams meeting in 6 months. It automates all of our note-taking processes so that we can work on what we're working on instead of talking, note-taking. We can just talk. And nobody's allowed to procrastinate anymore on the team, because we can ask AI for 47,000 ideas just to get the brain strolling again. And then it requires the human to take over and then become the creative aspect. That's what people are paying for, even on the print and the digital side. It's the interpretation of the art or what gets spit out, and then that modification to it that makes it the specialty.
So it's funny, when I first heard AI, I was thinking practice. We're talking practice whenever I hear AI. Here's a question. What is a characteristic or a trait? What characteristic that when you're doing business with someone or when you're starting to network with someone, what is a characteristic that is very important to you? Like for me, it's integrity. I want someone with integrity. I always say I would rather drink with a dishwasher than drink with a CEO who's a piece of crap. Okay. That's just my feeling, because it's integrity. Dave, what do you look for in someone? What is a characteristic that is very important to you when you're going to network with this person, or say, hey, you know what? I know this person, they're good to me, because we always get introduced to people. What's a characteristic that you look at?
Well, it's in our core values too, and it was under my logo for a long time. Is integrity, which is probably one of my biggest ones, if not second. Honesty. I'm a very cutthroat person, very straight and narrow. And if you just tell me like it is, we'll adapt and overcome to whatever that situation is, whether it's you need help being introduced to X or you're a client and we have Y problem.
How about you, Betty?
I always warn people, please don't ask me what I think, because I'm going to tell you. I'm very straightforward and very forthright. And if I think somebody is making a big mistake on something they want to do, I'll share with them why I think that's problematic. They can do what they want to do, but I always try to advise them in their own best interest, because I know what can go wrong in production. So I'm a very straight shooter. I'll give you an example. We had a gentleman that wanted to produce a very large hardware catalog and mail it. And I just said, you don't want to do that. And we instead implemented with him a sales brochure program that became extremely effective. He increased his sales 100%. He would have drowned in debt trying to mail out a book that weighed close to a pound. I said, don't do that. That's a foolish spend. As much as I'd love to do that printing, I don't want you to do that. And we help them be successful in another way. So I like a straightforward conversation. I'm going to listen. I'm going to tell you what I think you should do. Whether or not you want to do that is totally up to you. You're the client. That's being straightforward and being honest.
How about you, Doug?
Steve, just to rephrase, this is what I look for in someone else, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, integrity is great. I would love everyone to act with integrity. Sometimes I feel like that's hard to manifest right off the bat. I think typically you need some conflict to see if somebody has integrity. But and I don't have a good synonym for it, but like emotional intelligence, not to steal from Doug or Jeffrey Lurie. And it's an overused word, but I feel like everyone probably here has that go-giver mentality. Again, another overused term, but where you meet somebody and you connect and you're really chomping at the bit to help them in any way possible. When you do it time and time again, and the other person doesn't really get it, or they don't necessarily reciprocate, to me, that's a relationship. Typically, that's not going to pan out well in my book. So usually it's just understanding the art of giving and then reciprocating. And I think a lot of that falls under emotional intelligence.
Okay. Now, how do you guys define success? We all have different things for success. You know, some people do it monetary. You know, I feel successful because I have a good life. I have a great wife. I have a roof over my head. You know, I'm not a big star. I wanted that when I was younger. I'm glad I didn't get it because I wouldn't know any of you, and I'd probably be dead. But how do you define success, Doug? How do you define it for you?
Yeah, success for me, probably like for yourself, kind of gets dumbed down every couple of years. You know, initially you want to go professional, whether it's a sport or you want to be in Hollywood, you want to be the president. So I think, and I don't think that's necessarily selling yourself short. I just think it's getting a more narrow focus on where you're at in your life. So for me, it's just being the best parent, best father possible for my kids, and that ties into business. I mean, ultimately, you have to have a good income source, consistent income source, and a roof over your head. You have to be a good state of mind. So for me, it's just being the best father possible, because my kids and my wife are the most important things in my life.
How about you? How about you, Dave?
I think at my stage now, if you don't want more money, anybody listening to this or on this call, you're not in the right capitalistic society, right? But we can always get more of that. I really think it comes down to freedom of time management and being able to do what you want when you want, while still achieving, if you have business goals, or achieving the goals for your people. Not a parent, but as an uncle, being able to do what I want with the nieces and nephews and go on trips with them and go see them in Washington and go do what they need to do to see them be successful. That's my definition of success right now.
How about you, Betty?
My idea of success is having enough going on in your own business that you can spend time doing things that satisfy your heart needs. And for me, it's my nonprofits. Like, I'm very involved in Impact 100. I'm an honorary commander up at the base. I love going up to the 305th, hanging with those young service people. I don't get to do that if the mechanism behind me is not successful enough to allow me to get out and do that stuff. So I guess giving back, like I helped feed 15,000 families last year during the holidays, because I made the time to go do that. And I couldn't do it without the success and the people that are behind me that allow me to go do that. So I think having enough is a really great thing, and just counting your blessings and be able to give some of that back out. It's a great feeling, and that's very fulfilling to me. So that's my idea of success, having the ability and the time to go do that while I still do something I love when I'm here.
Okay. So my latest venture is I'm writing a business book. It's about networking. It's called the Don't Be a Jerk, the comedy of networking. It's a humorous look at networking. It's my credo, don't be a jerk. Now, I don't read business books, and I go into breakout rooms and they go, what's the last thing you read? And I'm like, Dirt by Motley Crue. I like that stuff. I like celebrity stuff. I love that kind of things. I'll listen to books on tape. You know, Richard Blade, the DJ, was on my show, my podcast. So I listened to his book on tape. I don't read business books, but a lot of people do. I want to go around and each of you tell me one business book that you read that has made a difference. Because I also don't like when people say, oh, this book changed my life. No, nothing changes your life, except for me, it was a cardiologist. But nothing changes. Can't see a book changing your life. I can see a book influencing you. But what is a book that you've read that has a business book that has made a difference for you? We'll start with you, Dave.
I was trying to see if I had it. It's a little far away, but Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. When I was a kid, we were talking about earlier, wanting to be a pro or wanting to be this. I wanted to be an FBI agent. So this Chris Voss comes out with this book about everything in life being a negotiation. And now I will always ask for deals on literally everything. I never did that. If the price was the price, we'll do that. But it's everything about structuring deals and building human rapport and a little bit of some psychological tricks in there to get some price off of stuff when you're out in the world just living. So that's a great one.
How about you, Betty?
The only one that I really kind of liked, and I'm with you because I have so much business all day long, all night long in here. I prefer something that entertains me. Like, I like a murder in the first 4 pages and then I'll read the book. But if I'm going to do a business book, I guess Blue Ocean Strategies was very interesting to me. There were approaches in that book that I didn't think I was going to like. And after I read it and thought about it, I thought, well, there's some good tidbits. I mean, you get something to put in your pocket. The book's worthwhile. But for me, I'm a murder mystery girl for the most part.
Okay, so you're like me. And how about you, Doug? You seem like a business book reader. You have, you're a smart guy. I don't know. Yeah. It just comes across, you got that Tony Reale thing going. I don't know what it is.
Oh, I love it. I'll take that as a compliment. So actually, I probably have a lot more fiction than I do nonfiction. Huge supporter of fiction. I like that, just the creativity of it. So I'm going to give you 2. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig. Although it's fiction, it's actually nonfiction. It's based on his life. It teaches you how to be present, again, in those mundane tasks that we all hate. And I think being present is such a difficult thing to achieve in today's society. Even for me, and I've checked my phone probably 3 times. I'm sorry, Steve, during the podcast. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be, I had it. I lost it. So there you go. Maybe I need to get back to my Zen. But
you got to get back to yours.
Yeah.
Okay. One final question, and take your time on this. If you were meeting someone, and this is going to be different because Dave, as I said, Dave, you're younger, but if you're meeting someone who's coming out of trade school, college, high school, they're eager, they want to start, they want to get in business, they're ready. What advice would you give to them? Looking at this person, they said, hey, do you have any advice for me? Betty, what advice would you give that young young person?
Okay, I would tell them, and what I find a lack of is they need to be patient in their growth. They need to absorb like a sponge everything they can learn at every level of the way to get them where they have to go. And what we found when I talk to college kids and I talk to high school kids, they want to play Chopin without learning how to play scales. And I think that we have a society right now that thinks, oh, it's a computer, I'll just push buttons and go. Well, there's a lot of methodology and structure behind the keys on that computer. And I think to take the time and be patient and learn from people who know more than you is a really hard thing to do, but I think it's a great road to success. I would also say to them, give yourself 2 years at every job you get to learn everything you can about that business and then go next level rather than gig mentality, a job here, a job there, I'll bounce here for $1. I think we need to try to drive home that there's patience involved in growth. And if you do that, you're going to be very, very successful. So I guess give themselves time and be a sponge would be my best advice to them.
How about you, Doug?
I'd say get out of your head and get into your environment. So I think, especially with social media, it's so easy to be extremely self-critical and just to never get started because of all the negative feedback. That negative feedback loop we're constantly being falling victim to, unfortunately. So I think just getting out there, just again taking that proverbial leap of faith, which I know from experience took me a long time to stop being self-limiting, essentially. So I think that's number one. Number two would be read a book. Don't scrape the surface when it comes to information. Although I get it, like at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I scroll through my phone and I'll read maybe the first couple sentences. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. I got the gist. But I think that's harmful. And I think ultimately, if the younger generation can start just understanding the information and the mechanisms behind it and reverse engineering that information, I just think that collectively we're going to be a lot better for it. So just, let's end the superficiality. Let's go a little bit deeper.
How about you, Dave?
Well, we hire a lot of these people. The average age of the company is older than me. So we deal with that experience. And I think with those people, we've hired a lot of failed entrepreneurs too, to be, creatives with us. Not everybody needs to be an owner, because you could still own your own position and your own department and your own structure in your own way. And not everybody has to be a crazy super salesman, but the people that are good at networking and good at sales and all that stuff, you need to understand that what you're good at and your talents and abuse those, because that is what's going to get you up a leg over somebody else, because you're just gifted with those things like being extroverted or being able to go talk to the wall or walk into a room with 300 people and have a good time versus a creative artist or a musician or screenwriters, anything of that nature. And again, Betty, that phrase, I've been using that a lot, what you just said, is being a sponge and just walking into everything. A funny story, we're going to a training tomorrow up in North Jersey for something completely random for a new client of ours. And I know nothing about it, but we're going there, and even we'll be with, the generals of that industry, if you want to call it. But you could still learn something out of every mundane training, task, cert, whatever you're going to do. Always try to find something positive out of that, because you can learn out of something you've done 100 times. You can still agree on something and still level up from that.
That was awesome. I always end the show with that question because it's funny. This is the first time no one said mentors, but but a lot of times say, but all the information you gave was great, because you're right. And I agree with all of it. And that's why there's no wrong answer to that, because you always give someone the advice or you talk to people about things, and there's no wrong answer. And I want to thank you for all coming on. Now tell people how they can get in touch with you. Betty, how can they come to get their printing needs and get in touch with you?
Well, they should come by. They should come by and see what we have in here and what we do in here, because everyone is always very surprised that this is a big operation in here. So you can either come visit us. You can call me directly at 856-547-1600. Got a brand new press in here I can show you. We've got a website, www.frontendgraphics.com, but we always answer the phone and we love to hear what you're thinking to see if we can help you get that done.
How about you, Dave? How can they come to Spartan Digital and get in touch with you?
Well, if they say they're friends with you, Steve, we'll give them some free consultation on how to not suck at social media. 856-669-8958. But anything on our website, spartandigital.com, or just throw it into Google. And if we did our job right, we should come up first.
And how about you, Doug?
Steve, the book is To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. That was the other one. I'm so glad I remembered it. I was getting concerned. Just find me on LinkedIn. So it's not cute. It's just Doug Holcombe. And DM me and let's strike up a conversation. Our website's www.bcg-nj.com. But again, just find me on LinkedIn. That's the best way.
Yeah, people, you can find me on LinkedIn under Steve Cooper. Also, if you want to sponsor the Coop Tank, you know, the people who come on my shows are industry leaders. The people who listen and watch my show are industry leaders and they're go-getters. They make shit happen. And they're going to tell people that if they hear about your company and they like you. So you can reach out to me at the Coop Tank at yahoo.com. You can sign up for one episode, 2 episodes, or 4 episodes. There's a price break for all of them. It's low cost, it's effective, and it will work for you. Also, listen to past shows of the audio at thecooptank.podbean.com or on Amazon Music, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. And also you can go to YouTube and just look up The Coop Tank, watch the shows, rate them, subscribe, make a comment. And I want to thank Joe Gangemi of SuiteRecording, the best producer in town. There's a reason why I do my show here, and it's because of Joe. So remember, I'm Steve Cooper, and I will talk to all of you next week.